First piece of breaking news in the Mets offseason. The Mets have just swung a deal with the Tampa Bay Rays, the same team they traded with midseason to acquire Phil Maton. They're doing another deal, and this time it's for a center fielder. Jose Siri is coming to New York, and going to Tampa Bay is Ericory. This is a very interesting trade. Center field was one of the holes that the Mets had to fill this offseason. Harrison Bader is an impending free agent. I think we get our questions answered on whether or not he'll come back now. It's looking like no, considering his $10 million price tag from last year. It's not all that surprising. He'll probably want to go somewhere where he's going to play every day. And instead, Jose Siri comes into the fold, maybe as an everyday player, maybe not. So let's evaluate this cat, because if you know Jose Siri, you probably know him for his swagger on the field. He's a pretty boisterous dude, talks some smack, got some drip, dresses up pretty interestingly. He brings a lot of character to the New York Mets, which is exciting because I think the Mets were an exciting team last year. He's going to fit right into the mold of that. And also, if you've watched him play, you know that he's a pretty terrific defender. So this acquisition falls right in line with David Stern's roster construction philosophy of run prevention first. He was 99th percentile in outs above average with plus 16 as his value. That's very, very good, especially if you're a center fielder. So the Mets, who had a great defensive center fielder last year in Harrison Bader, maybe have an even better one going into 2025. So a great move there. His arm strength is also spectacular, 97th percentile, averaging 93.5 miles per hour on his throws. That's really going to help out with the weaker arm of Brandon Nimmo and the likely waning arm of Starling Marte as the outfield is currently constructed. So the Mets needed to upgrade their outfield defense pretty badly, and they do that with this move. And now Tyrone Taylor, who's still on the team, can return to his fourth outfielder role, a role that, in my opinion, he thrived in. And I think that as much as he could probably start on another team, I think having him as a fourth outfielder is really nice for the roster construction of this team. Now, Jose Siri's bat is definitely a concern. He struck out 37.9% of the time last year, which was the highest mark in baseball of any batter with 400 plate appearances, higher than Nolan Gorman, Zach Geloff, Tyler O'Neill, Luis Robert Jr., all those guys were above 33%. Jose Siri had the highest. He struck out 170 times in 130 games. That's a bugaboo. That's going to be probably the defining reason why I think the Rays were willing to part with someone like Siri, who's so talented defensively. He's got power, though. I mean, he slugged in his best season, which was 2023. He slugged .494, had a 105 OPS plus, 25 home runs on the year. Really solid year. That was the last time the Rays made the playoffs as well. But everything kind of just took a step back. He batted .187, 255 on base, 366 slug for a 620 OPS. So that bat is not only a concern, it's a liability right now. When you go up and down his baseball savant percentiles, everything defensively and base running looks so good. So good, like top of this class. And then everything batting wise is as bad as it can get. So if you want to talk about a player that kind of lives in the extremes, Jose Siri is one of the most extreme cases in baseball right now. So if he's able to maintain his defensive prowess and his ability on the base paths and, be this 20 stolen base, Gold Glove caliber center fielder, and if the Mets can get anything out of that bat whatsoever, this looks like a great deal for them. Siri is a guy that's under team control until 2028, so the Mets have a lot of time of control with him, I think, as well as Tyrone Taylor. So they've really figured out their defensive center field situation pretty well. Brandon Nimmo is going to be the left fielder of the future, focus on hitting. Love that a lot. Nimmo's year in center field in 2022 was great. But I don't think he was the long-term answer there. This feels much more like a proper solution to the defensive center field situation. Going out, Ericory, who was a former top 30 prospect in the Mets system, got a brief cup of coffee last year, recorded 5 outs, had an ERA of 21. Obviously, you look at those numbers, they aren't great, but Orsi was a guy that I think a lot of people were excited for, including myself. I looked at him as a possible realistic option for this team in somewhat medium leverage situations. Instead, he's going to be a Tampa Bay Ray. They're probably going to get the absolute best out of him. You're probably going to check in April and see that he has like a 0.5 ERA, and we're going to think, oh, we lost this trade. But I trust Stearns' bullpen building capabilities. I guess that he viewed Orsi as someone who is expendable, and he's probably going to be getting to work on the bullpen sooner rather than later. But Orsi, no joke, man. He had an ERA below 3 at Syracuse last year in 61 innings. That's a very volatile hitting environment. It's a tough thing to do. So he had a really terrific year, and he deserves to go somewhere where he's going to be a part of a major league club. And it looks like Tampa Bay is going to be that place. So I like this acquisition. It's pretty harmless in terms of what you're giving up, and it's really beneficial if nothing else. Like Siri, he gives you that defensive and speed upgrade. If the Mets plan to add big bats, even if Siri doesn't perform offensively, if he's your 9-hitter, I don't really mind. I'm not going to lie to you. Obviously, right now, he's slotted in as one of the bigger pieces of your lineup because the Mets just have a lot of work to do. But if he's a guy that is even going to be a late inning substitution kind of guy, I don't mind that either. And you know what, man? Like if you get the 2023 version of him, which was, granted a 220 hitter with an OBP well below 300, but that power stroke is there. This is a guy that could be a 20 home run, 20 stolen base candidate to play Gold Glove caliber defense. So I think the Mets are seeing the upside here for this age 29 player, formerly, a pretty well-regarded prospect. And I like where their head is at, because even with that 76 OPS plus, even with that 620 OPS on the year, he still nearly had a 2-WAR season just from his talents in the other facets of the field alone. So a very, very David Stearns acquisition is what this is. It's a very David Stearns acquisition. Kind of a similar feeling I got when I was looking at Tyrone Taylor's page last year. Those, not amazing offensive numbers, but what he can do defensively. And if you get anything out of his bat and put him in proper situations, then he can thrive. This is kind of giving me the same vibe, but just to a much more extreme. One thing I want to note, Siri, his numbers against left-handed pitching is a lot better. Right-handed hitter, pull power kind of guy. He had a 679 OPS against lefties, which isn't great, but much better than the 601 OPS that he put up against right-handers. 38 strikeouts compared to 132. The strikeout rate, I'm not sure of there, but, you'd probably just a much more comfortable hitter against left-handed pitching. And also a tale of two halves. Like at the first half last year, he had 12 home runs, 10 stolen bases. His OPS was near 700, and then just a really bad second half, lost playing time. I don't know if there were any injuries there. I'm not super familiar with his history. I'm just giving you my raw reaction right now, looking at the numbers that I have in front of me. So I like it. Currently, the fourth outfielder on the Mets was Luke Ritter, who had a great year at AAA, but it felt like a spring training invite and possibly a demotion back to AAA for him. That feels much more concrete now because Jose Siri is just, he's a major league player, and he's probably going to be on this major league roster if all goes according to plan. So first move of the offseason for the Mets, first real move, really. And that's a pretty exciting one. We also got news today that Severino and Minaya declined the qualifying offer, so they're going to hit free agency. I'm sure we'll hear more about that sometime soon, but we get a firm, concrete move here, Eric Orsi for Jose Siri. I'm a fan of it. Let's just see what happens. Worst case scenario, you have a great defensive and speedy center fielder. And if he needs to ride the bench and be that weapon there, then that's fine with me as well. Mets have a lot of work to do. This is a nice one to kind of just check off the list. Let's upgrade defense and center field and focus on other stuff, because there weren't a lot of great options on the free agent market besides Harrison Bader, who's going to have that hefty price tag. So I like it a lot. That's pretty much all my thoughts on this. I can only go on for so long about Jose Siri. We'll have to just see, but pretty exciting stuff. What a kickoff to the offseason. We finally got something, guys. Thanks for watching this. If you watch all the way through, subscribe to the Shea Station channel, leave a like on the video, and we'll see you for a podcast next week.